It could affect the industry as we go forward. Not immediately, yes. Depends on OEs don't switch overnight. OEs will take a long time to switch. Mexico, in a way, partly is in line with what the US has done. So it is a reflection of, what the US tariffs on India are. Indian government is already in conversation to try and renegotiate. This first half of the year continues to be stable and overall robust from an industry perspective. Overall growth of the industry has been about 6.8% over the previous year. Majority of it goes to the OEs, which has grown over 7%. The domestic aftermarket has seen a strong revival of about 9% growth over previous year, and exports have grown by over 13% during the same period. So overall, it's been positive. Despite some headwinds in the global markets, but local GST rationalization from an auto perspective continues to keep the direction of flow positive.
So in your presentation you have said that for fiscal year 25-26 there had been no impact on the export side because the Trump tariffs got into effect in the later part of September or October. So what will be the outlook for the second half? Do you see any impact on the downside?
So it's an interesting question. As you've seen in the first half, the US has broadly stayed stable from an India export perspective, whereas some other markets have grown. So while new markets are developing, the US has stayed stable also because it takes OEs a long time to switch to alternative suppliers because the process of qualification, quality approval is not an instant thing that somebody can trade off. The second half of the year may see some challenges as we go forward. Data will show this over a period of time. However, what I understand from colleagues in the industry that at least the OE side supply continues to be stable. New projects are slow to come by. So if there were new awards of new projects, that have been held back a little bit, which means that the growth of exports over time could temporarily suffer. But I'm sure this is a temporary phenomena, and over time, this too shall pass.
So India has been engaging with various bilateral trade agreements, FTAs and all. So how do you see this? And do you see any particular countries which India can leverage in the future?
As you know, that India has been also signing a whole bunch of bilaterals and free trade agreements with a number of countries around the world, including the EU, the UK, New Zealand. And that list is a long list as we go forward. I think this augurs well for the industry because ultimately, as the Indian auto component industry continues to be a global industry and part of the global supply chain, we remain competitive, and the industry is working hard to continue to get further competitive as we go forward. So overall, even if the US slows down temporarily, other markets will start falling in place to be able to soften the landing a little bit. However, in the long run, the US is the single largest market, and we are hoping that the US, along with other countries, will increase our exports from India.
So recently Mexico had tariffs on various countries, including India. So has it affected our industry?
Again, it could affect the industry as we go forward. Not immediately, yes. Like I said, it depends on OEs don't switch overnight. OEs will take a long time to switch. And again, Mexico, in a way, partly is in line with what the US has done. So it is a reflection of, what the US tariffs on India are. And the Indian government is already in conversation to try and renegotiate some of these tariffs.
Is our volume very high with Mexico?
No, Mexico volumes are not very high. The US continues to be the largest market. EU is the second, and Asia's is the third. It's broadly one-third. Mexico has local production for the US market, and some impact will be there in the short run. But like I said, the Indian government continues to negotiate with the Mexican government to renegotiate this.
Sir, it will be a two-part question. So what was the impact of GST reduction on the overall auto components industry? And the second question would be the upcoming Yashobhumi event. Can you please talk us through that?
Sure. The GST, as we discussed earlier also, one is that from an auto component perspective, there were two rates, so 28% and 18%, which has now been rationalized to an 18%. So I think it makes operation much easier. There is no conflict or there is no confusion in which component goes in 28 and which goes into 18. But overall, from an larger industry ecosystem perspective, as GST rates have come down in a number of categories in the auto side, their demand has picked up. And because their demand has picked up, the auto component industry supply chain demand has picked up. So overall, it is a positive for the industry, and we are certainly hoping that this GST reduction in the auto side will continue to pull more from the auto component industry. And the second part you talked about was the upcoming Auto Mechanica in Yashobhumi. It is the largest auto mechanica for the after component industry that is being held. It is doubled in size from the last time. It has got over 850 people exhibiting there, over about 250 new exhibitors in that space, a number of global exhibitors for the aftermarket space. It's probably the largest in this region in the aftermarket space, and I think it's a good step for the strong aftermarket business that India has seen. The aftermarket continues to consolidate because of this whole formal economy on the aftermarket side, and I think overall, in the long run, as we've seen about a 9% growth this year in the aftermarket, this will further help that business.